Hi, everyone. My name is Hannah Schultz, and I am the Program Associate at Georgia Interfaith Power and Light. I want to welcome all of you to another Eco Faith from Home 30 Days of Climate Action event. We want to thank the Ray C. Anderson Foundation and Drawdown, Georgia for making this 30-day event possible. Through their leadership and financial support, we have pulled together a variety of climate, faith, and environmental experts to educate all of us on how we can combat the climate crisis from home. We are so excited to be joined tonight from a team from Partnership for Southern Equity. Before we get started tonight, I want to name that Derek Chauvin was found guilty on all charges for George Floyd's murder. So we are excited to see some progress tonight in the realm of social justice. The work we do at GIPL is rooted in God's command to do justice, and we understand all of our justice work to be intersectional. So we are so excited to have this conversation tonight with Partnership from Southern Equity. We know that the work continues, and we are glad to have community partners to share this conversation with. So thank you all so much for being here tonight. Today's workshop is Advancing Just Energy for All, Opportunities for Drawdown, Georgia. It will be led by a wonderful group of panelists. I'm going to introduce two of them tonight, and then I'll let the rest introduce themselves. So we are so grateful to have Chandra Farley here with us tonight. She is an activist at heart and credits her parents with instilling a sense of duty to always do what she can to advance justice and fairness. As the Just Energy Director at Partnership for Southern Equity, Chandra leads a team towards developing local and regional strategies to advance energy equity through coalition building, leadership development, community organizing, and leveraging data and research. I'd also like to introduce and welcome Alicia Scott, who joined the Partnership for Southern Equity team as the Just Energy Manager in 2020. She has served as executive director for multiple nonprofits in Georgia and worked heavily in Georgia politics since 2016, where she served as the regional director of the Bernie Sanders campaign and has run several local and state level political campaigns. So thank you all so much for being here today. Just a few reminders before this workshop begins. The workshop will be recorded, so you can view and share the recording from our YouTube page and from our Facebook page. Please keep your camera off and mic muted until the panelists invite you to unmute and come back on camera. If you have any questions, please drop it in the chat box at the bottom of your screen. Also, if you're joining us and have not registered for Eco Faith from Home, there is still time. I will put a link in the chat where you can register for more of our events. So thanks again for being part of GIPL's Eco Faith from Home series, and we hope you enjoy tonight's session.
Thanks so much, Hannah. And I just want to say, thanks to you and the GIPL team. Cody reached out to me probably as Alicia and I were on the phone having a conversation about tonight, asking if we wanted to cancel and if we really wanted to still come together to have this conversation. And it was interesting because I sent back to Cody, pushing on is what we do. And this verdict is hardly justice on its own. And I am glad that we have partners that recognize, as Nathaniel says, and I'm sure he'll say tonight, that it's all a journey, and the journey is just as important as the destination. So we've got an amazing group. I'm here with my Just Energy Manager, Alicia, DJ Blythe, our Just Energy Coordinator, who's in the background helping us with tech, and a lot of my friends, and I'm super excited. We've all had so many Zooms, right? We're all Zoomed out, so we're trying to make this just a jump in virtual fishbowl, which I used to not really like in person, but we're trying everything these days in the virtual space. So as we go throughout the night, throughout the evening, Alicia and I are going to chat, then we're going to have Nathaniel chat, and then we're going to start to bring in all of our wonderful friends that are here. So Lindsay Harper with US Can, Arm in Arm, Dr. Jairo Garcia with Georgia Tech. We've also got Chef Matthew Rayford to make sure we've got the agricultural voice here. And Dr. Erica Holloman from West Atlanta Watershed may be joining us later. And as we go through, if you are interested in jumping into the fishbowl when we open that up, either hit the Q&A or drop something in the chat, and we will thank you for your grace as we experiment with this. So why is PSE here? Why is it important for Partnership for Southern Equity as a racial equity organization to be involved in something like Drawdown Georgia? Alicia, what are we doing here?
Well, what are we doing here? We are here to catalyze systems change. That is what PSC's primary goal here. I do have to take just for a moment to give a shout out to Chef Matthew Rayford. He is a fellow TED Talk presenter. How you doing out there, Chef? We both were in TEDx Savannah. Anyway, sorry, just to add that little caveat there. Back to PSC. PSC, we are a systems leader. We are a systems change. What is our ultimate goal? Our goal here at Partnership for Southern Equity is to catalyze an equity ecosystem that advances systems change so that race is no longer a barrier or a defining factor in the life outcomes of Black Americans and marginalized people of color. For those of you who aren't very familiar with the Partnership for Southern Equity, Partnership for Southern Equity was founded by Nathaniel Smith formally in 2010. Their goal is to advocate for racial equity and social justice across metropolitan Atlanta and the American South. Now, over the past decade, PSC has cultivated a diverse ecosystem of equity stakeholders who work in concert to advance systems change. We do this work through four distinct issue areas and portfolios of work. Just Growth, which advocates for the equitable development of marginalized communities. Just Opportunity, which advocates for Black-owned and minority-owned businesses and equal economic opportunity. Just Health, and Just Energy. So I'm going to pass it back to Chandra right now to explain exactly what we do in the Just Energy issue area at PSC.
Thanks, Alicia. So what is Just Energy, right? Just Energy is a framework. So we talk a lot at PSC about, I can't remember who said it. Nathaniel, I don't know if you remember this, but I always remember Odetta McLeish-White, who formerly had Transformation Alliance. You know, Black people get programs, right? Not policy. And so it's always been so important to me that we always reinforce that our issue areas are frameworks for advancing equity, you know, in the various issue areas. So Just Energy is really a framework that houses programs like our Just Energy Circle, which many people are here with. So our equity circles of all of our issue areas have one. Are first and foremost about creating safe space for these really tough conversations that we need to have around race and white supremacy and structural oppression, and how they impact all of our issue areas. Our equity circles are also a space to bring the uncommon allies together. So all the people on your screen right now, and probably a lot of people who have zoomed in, are a part of our Just Energy Circle and some of our other circles where we're able to work together. And so we have community leadership development. So we have the Just Energy Academy and a number of academies in the organization where we are bringing in folks who might be existing community leaders or aspiring community leaders to learn about energy, climate, land use, planning, environmental justice, all of these things that we know our communities and marginalized communities need to know about so they can stand up confidently in their agency and go to the Public Service Commission and speak up. We already got some questions about the Public Service Commission. They can go to their Municipal Utility Commission. They can go to the legislature and make comment. So all of these things about building community capacity in the issue areas. And then community organizing is critical, that we have organizers on the ground across the state working in community directly with people to figure out, we know some stuff, but I bet the community members we talk to know a whole lot more stuff than I do about what is happening wherever they live in their neighborhood. So all of our work, this framework around just energy, is that framework to advance all of those things. So we are building power with communities to shape our future, a more just and equitable future. So
we have a question, Chandra.
Yep.
Is there an Alabama PSC? Because you're certainly needed here in Birmingham.
Oh, was that from the chat? That's awesome.
That was from Facebook, yeah.
So the reason, and Nathaniel will have to talk about the equity ecosystem. So through our Just Energy Academy, we have partners like Reverend Michael Malcolm, who's the founder of the People's Justice Council and Alabama Interfaith Power and Light. We have 3 Just Energy participants from Alabama. Alabama's a big state. So these are the kinds of economic development where Nathaniel has been working with some of the municipalities across Georgia. So that is how we are able to amplify and multiply ourselves across the South. And all of those Alabama partners and the Carolinas are also part of our Advancing Equity and Opportunity Collaborative. Lindsay's been a part of that for a long time. And we have a working group that is specifically focused on electric membership cooperatives. So something we always want to bring into the conversation, because Georgia Power sucks up so much of our time and energy here in Georgia. But, we've got a lot of electric membership cooperatives across the state. And these are, quite frankly, opportunities for us to advance democracy and energy at a quicker pace. You can run for the board. You can go to these annual meetings. So we don't have a physical PSC location in Alabama yet, but we definitely have people there that we partner with doing the work.
Definitely. Okay, Chandra, we were going to talk next about the outcomes of the April 13th GIPL drawdown session.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we were putting this together, hats off to GIPL, first of all, for putting together this whole month of Earth Month events. I mean, they've got like 2 or 3 things happening every week. So hand clap to you all for doing that. And so when we learned that there was a Drawdown Georgia specific conversation before this, we asked the GIPL team if there were questions that came out of that we could engage tonight. And quite frankly, one of them is the whole point of our conversation. How do we increase access to some of the Drawdown Georgia solutions? And this is what the equity conversation is built to address. So I think that is a perfect segue into how to get into the meat of the conversation tonight.
That's right. So we're going to talk next about carbon. Why is beyond carbon so important? And I'm going to ask our fearless leader, Nathaniel Smith, to come on mic for this. We have a question we'd like to propose to you, Mr. Smith. Why do you think it's important to join the Drawdown Georgia Advisory Council? We know that you are a member of the UNRCE's Drawdown Georgia Advisory Council. So would you share with us this evening why is beyond carbon important, and why did you join this work?
Well, I mean, I think the question, and again, for folks that know me, sometimes I can draw out my answer, so to speak, but I don't want to tarry too far from that question, but I want to say quickly, first and foremost, thank you again to GIPL for being such a great friend of the Partnership for Southern Equity. We have been joined at the hip for many years. We've sued people together, and we've also done other things together. They are a great member of the Just Energy Circle. And so again, the moral imperative for energy justice is critical, and GIPL provides so much of that to the movement. And so I want to honor and lift that up. I think for me, my positioning with Drawdown Georgia, not just as a member, but as one of the chairs, is really a signal, I think, to the broader community, not only the practitioners and the people who are in this space all the time, but also a signal to the everyday people who are continuously forced to choose between their groceries and their light bill. Individuals who have to drive until they qualify for affordable housing or jobs, children who live next to highways or other institutions that create bad air and are causing asthma challenges, that the work can't just be about lowering carbon. We can't just focus on drawing down carbon. We have to also focus on lifting up justice. And in order for us to have a chance to truly realize a cleaner world, a greener world, a more sustainable world, a more resilient world, we have to be willing to own the history of extreme exploitation and extreme extraction, and the relationship between the pillaging and extreme extraction that we have displayed as it relates to our earth, our mother earth, and the pulling out of fossil fuels and the extreme extraction of fossil fuels, and that relationship between that and the extreme extraction of Black and brown communities and historically marginalized communities, to actually drive an economy that is built on exploitation and not regeneration. So for me, it's simple. In order for us to realize a cleaner future, we have to realize a more just future. And I believe that the work of Drawdown Georgia and the various partners, and shout out to the Ray C. Anderson Foundation, other organizations that are part of Drawdown Georgia, have to understand as well that as we move towards a cleaner future, a clean energy future, it also gives us an opportunity to be reparative in the way that we have left many communities that have been left behind and have been exploited as a result of the history of structural racism and oppression. And as we have a chance to transition towards a clean energy economy, a world that is more sensitive to our Mother Earth, that we also have a chance to right the historic wrongs and injustices that many communities of color face as it relates to our economy, as it relates to our energy systems, as it relates to our climate, as it creates even to where we live and how we live, and even more so what we eat, right? So it can't just be about lowering carbon, because we can lower carbon, but that will not end the real challenge that we have in our society. And that real challenge, in my opinion, is that that we do not look at everyone and everything as a part of our ecosystem. And until we see everyone, whether they are wealthy or poor, whether they have or have not, whether they have alphabets behind their names or not, that we all are a critical part of this ecosystem. And Drawdown Georgia, in my opinion, has an opportunity to elevate that fact while at the same time advancing a reparative agenda. I am beginning to talk about something that I'm going to be talking about more in the next few months, something that I'm calling the green reconstruction. It is something that we have to consider and think about. And I think that Drawdown Georgia provides an opportunity for us to do that.
Wonderful. I'd like to invite Jairo Garcia and Lindsay Harper into this next question, fishbowl conversation. Here's a prompting question for the three of you. What is possible where equity is related to Drawdown Georgia?
Lindsay, you want to start? You want me to go for it?
Go for it.
So yes, I'm part of the Drawdown Georgia, the equity aspect of the Drawdown Georgia. And then basically I want to second what Natalia Smith just said, war by war is that we cannot achieve a reduction in carbon if we don't include all aspects of our society. I love this focus in extreme extraction, because that's what we are doing. We're extracting from the earth all the resources and we are putting it in the sky. And basically that's what is changing our climate and is affected. The people that are affected the most are vulnerable communities. And everything has to be with economic aspects. So we know that the fossil fuel industry has a well-established system in which they enrich themselves at the cost of all of us, because we all have to pay the price, but more so the communities that they cannot even afford, as Nathaniel Smith explained it, cannot afford to put food on the table because they have to pay the electric bill. Or this worse than that, they cannot afford to pay the bill during the summer because it's to hide the bill. I had talked to people that had to pay $300, $400 a month in electric bill during the summer, so they don't turn the air conditioning. And it is extremely dangerous, especially with population, the elder, the children that are being the most affected by heat waves. And we see an enormous amount of people dying, specifically here in Georgia, because they cannot afford air conditioning. And the reason is that we have what we call the energy burden. We pay enormous amount of money in energy burden. And we know that the utility company is making billions in profits. So company making billions in profits, while on the other side, our children are getting sick, our people cannot pay their bills, and then people are getting poorer and poorer. So this is about fossil fuels, but it's more about the power of the few that are affecting the most. So definitely the Drawdown project is a great path, a direction that we can take, but we need to include us all. We had to participate, all of us, we had to participate in this transition. It's gonna be a benefit for all. And once we switch the power, because the saying that I use all the time to my students at Georgia Tech, at Johns Hopkins, is that the sun shines for everybody. The sunshine does only shines for the rich stakeholders of the utility company. The sun shines for everybody. Everybody of us, we can produce electricity. Everybody of us, we can benefit from not only low prices of electricity, but also to be part of what we call the grid, to be part of the solution. All of us, we can be part of the solution. And they don't want us. They don't want us to be for us. They want to just keep the monopoly, which they are. They are the monopoly. So we definitely is something that by moralizing this project, the Drawdown project, and including the social aspect on it, and see what we can offer as the people, what we can offer as a solution, because each of us can be part of the solution. And then it's not going to be successful. So that's why we are trying to push as hard as we could in order to be sure that the equity aspect of the Drawdown project is not just another, the top of the ice of the cake, but it is in the cake. It's part of the conversation, it's part of the solution, it's on the table. So right now I'm working in several projects, specifically in a rooftop solar. We're going to talk about a little bit later about rooftop solar and community solar, in which I can offer my perspectives about that.
Thank you, Jairo. Lindsay, I want to hear from, let's get some of this feminine divine energy into this conversation. What do you think? What's possible with regards to Drawdown Georgia when it comes to equity?
Sure. Thank you, Alicia, and to Jairo, Nathaniel, Chandra, Gipple. I'm glad to be here and I appreciate the invitation. Lindsay Harper, she, hers. I'm National Coordinator for Arm in Arm, where we're working to ignite a transformational era, ending the climate crisis, centering racial and economic justice. One of the things that I think really excites me about Drawdown is this kind of opportunity it's really like cost saving. So kind of putting on my business hat and this idea about being able to repair or recreate or reimagine an economy that's no longer violent, but that feeds people and allows for people to be prosperous. I think that Drawdown allows for cost savings, essentially, which then will result in access to capital. When we have access to capital, it gives us opportunity to invest in innovation, to invest in people, to invest in human capital, to invest in ideas, to invest in young people, and just human capital development. And I think that's something very special that Georgia has to offer in this region, but also to the nation, because, you know, Partnership for Southern Equity says it all the time. We here in the South say it all the time, as goes the South, goes the nation. Any climate movement that's being led right now, I think should be led by a person of color, a woman from the South, because of we have as I say, a confluence of circumstances that really allow us to be leaders in understanding the complexities of a system that is born out of and is still reproducing has an extractive relationship with its constituents. And somehow Black folks, Indigenous folks, people of color in the state have been able to survive and in some places thrive. And I think the opportunity is we can figure out what is working in different places and give it money, give it resources so that we can recreate these things in other parts of the state. We don't have to recreate the wheel. We just have to resource the things that are working. And so if we spend more of our time, well, I should say less of our time, taking people's resources, their time, their energy, their money out of their pockets, putting it back into their pockets, into their minds, into their ideas, into their families, into their land, into their water, I think all of us will have more access to capital at the end of the day. And I think that, you know, while industry has lots and lots of money, we could all make a whole lot more money if there weren't, it wasn't so seated in greed. And so I think the last thing I want to say is that I think that, you know, God wants us to be prosperous. I don't think money is a bad thing, but I think that when it's being used to oppress instead of to enrich is where we have our problem. And so I think that there's enough for everyone. We just need to act like it. And so I believe that reimagining our economy in a way that's less extractive and beginning with drawing down and reducing our uses of particular things and reinvesting our energy and money is really where the real opportunity lies.
And Alicia, if I may add a couple of things, because I really want to bring it down to the bread and butter of it all. Number one, equity embedded in the Drawdown Georgia work will finally provide a bridge between communities of color and traditional white environmental organizations that actually believe that they can actually realize their goals without including marginalized communities and communities of color. Drawdown actually provides that point of entry for uncommon allies, the communities that have many times been left out of the environmental discussion, and actually creates an opportunity for us to reflect together, not only on what type of world do we want, but also the reality around the level and the culture of extraction sometimes that we experience in environmental organizations who are usually white led and white governed. Okay. Second of all, if Drawdown Georgia is successful and those communities are connected, we'll finally have a public transportation system in our communities. We have not been able to expand MARTA, not because people don't care about carbon or don't believe in climate change. It's because many of them don't want Black people to have access to their communities, right? So Drawdown Georgia provides an opportunity for us to have adequate public transportation that is multimodal, and that can get people to where they are and where the opportunities are, and businesses have access to the talent that they need in order to be competitive. Three, there's an opportunity for an economic revolution in underinvested communities like we've never seen before, through the investment in infrastructure, the investment in retrofits, the investments in weatherization, not just allowing other people to come into communities and do the jobs that are needed in solar, but to actually create a huge workforce development. And Lindsay talked about this opportunity where communities of color can not only live in healthier housing, but be positioned to actually be a part of the workforce that is actively transitioning our economy. And that is how we can make sure that we're not just having a transition, a clean energy transition, but a just transition. So these are real opportunities. And I'm not even going to talk about, because I know some people are going to talk about the agricultural elements of it, but there are huge opportunities. And this is the key, Alicia. Again, And I've been very, very clear to my constituents with Drawdown, Georgia. The goals that we are working to achieve will not be realized in Georgia if we don't make sure that the things that we're lifting up in this conversation are a key part of not only the work, but the way. And those are two key pieces that are critical if we want to be successful.
Thank you for that, Nathaniel. Thank you, Lindsay, and thank you, Jairo, for all of your insightful input. I have a question from the audience, and then we're going to invite, let's see who's out here. We're missing just a couple of folks. I know we're having some connection issues, but I'll just put this audience question out there for the three of you, and any of you can answer. How can communities that have historically been impacted by these justice issues get involved in this work? And part two of that is, how do we navigate the emotional labor involved in this fight as Black and Brown people? Lindsay, you look like you want to answer that. Was that a or anyone, Nathaniel, anyone?
Well, yes, I definitely had some thoughts, which you saw on my face. I'm never good at hiding my face. So I can just share briefly. At Arm in Arm, is very important to us, is to really get folks involved in pushing for policy that protects people and really building that outside game. It's the work that needs to be done in this country. One, this is spiritual warfare. Two, this is a moment where we need to kind of all heave ho at the same time to kind of push this pendulum over onto the other side. And so what needs to happen in this country isn't just going to happen at the policy level. It's not just going to happen in the federal government. This really has to come from the local level. It needs to come from states. It needs to come from all regions, and from all political parties, because what is happening with the climate, it is impacting all of us, whether you know it now or you'll know it in about 5 minutes. So I just say that for us, I think it's there are ways for people to really get engaged and to make sure that we're building power in our communities, to speak when the moment is right, to know that something needs to change, and making sure we maintain that pressure and maintain that level of accountability. So I'll just share that, and I'm happy to share more about Arm in Arm later.
Thank you.
Well, I was just going to say too, apply for the Just Energy Academy. I mean, that's an easy way to get started. We're in the midst of our, what is this, our third class, Chandra? Our third class. And so, after this class, we'll be accepting applications for our fourth class. And, I think that is a good place to start, because just because you're at the table doesn't necessarily mean you know what to ask for. And so you have to, the same way that oppressors are taking their role and job seriously, we need to take our job seriously as advocates for the people. And if we are serious about the work of justice, then we have to educate our minds and strengthen our intellect around what is required for us to be successful, and move beyond rhetoric, move beyond, and I spent a lot of time marching as a young person. But when we're talking about systems transformation, that is a different requirement. And so the first thing that I would encourage folks to do is to join, and sign up to be a part of the next class of the Just Energy Academy. If you're an organization that is interested, engage in Arm in Arm, engage in the Just Energy Circle, engage in the Climate Reality Project in the Georgia chapter. Get involved, in the work that is required. And even more so, make sure that when you do this work, that you understand it is not for you alone, that as you progress, that you have to be committed to bringing people along as well. So it's a to each one teach one effort that we have to advance. And so, those would be some of my recommendations around how you can engage. And this question of healing, which is really, really important, because, Lindsay talked about the difference between the federal and the local, but really, the revolution for racial equity actually begins inside of each and every one of us. It has to begin with our commitment to having a revolution within ourselves. How are we going to treat the planet? How are we going to show up on this planet, and how are we going to treat each other? So that is a whole another conversation. But I think it's really important for us to add that as well, Lindsay, to the conversation.
Yeah, I have to second everything that Natalia said and Lindsay said. There are many ways to participate, but the less effective way to participate is to be alone, because one individual can make the difference, but it's a lot of trouble. You need to drag people, you need to collaborate, you need to work together. So I am the chair of the Climate Reality chapter here in Atlanta, and our organization is totally free. Anybody can join us, and then we work together. We are more than 350 people working together to make a statement. And then we have the expertise in many areas. So my expertise is in climate change, but we have lawyers, we have lobbyists, we have people working in the healthcare system that is impacted by climate change. So all those people, all those expertise are so powerful when we work together. And also we are, as an organization, we are part of the Just Energy Circle, because we have to collaborate, we have to work together in order to be more effective. So again, the best way to, as Natalia mentioned, is to get involved and get if it's individual organizations, there are many ways that you can get involved, and they be sure that you participate, but we need you. We need you. You don't know how much. I've been, for instance, in hearings in front of the public service commissioners, and most of the people that are speaking are representatives of the fossil fuel industry. And we look around and they see 2 or 3 the same ones all the time to go to the hearings. And we say, we are millions here in Georgia. Why they are not here fighting for the right to have affordable clean energy? Why we are not speaking up? So sometimes it just scratch my head, and I don't understand it. So everybody can go there and they speak up, especially you get involved. So just please get involved. And as Nathaniel mentioned, it's coming from inside. So get the revolution inside and go and get it.
Thank you, Jairo. Does anyone have any questions for our current group? Any questions at all before I go to the next audience question? And I'll invite Chandra back in if you want to chime in on this next one. Very briefly, how do we navigate the emotional labor as Black and Brown people around this work? We have a lot of talks about self-care and what advocacy takes, but we're hit from all sides, from social justice, from social injustices like George Floyd, from the voter restricting these restrictive voter laws in places like Georgia and North Carolina and across the South. Now you want us to also advocate for energy. How do we do that? And then here's another second part question. If I'm cold for lack of heat now, how will Drawdown Georgia help me and others now and in the future?
Well, that's a heavy question, Alicia, just like this work. This social justice, you put any word you want to in front of justice. It's heavy work. It can be lonely, it can be sad, sometimes there's long periods between anything you might be able to consider a win. And now we are the thing, right? Environmental justice, Black women. I mean, like, how many meetings and calls and hearings and things like that are we being asked to be a part of? So the exhaustion can be oppressive, let alone the external systems. And we hear a lot about self-care now. And even I was Googling because I wanted to make sure I got the, I always want to make sure I get the quote from Audre Lorde right about self-care not being an indulgence. It's self-preservation. It's how we take care of ourselves. And if you're not following NAP ministry, please follow the NAP ministry, which is, rest is revolution. Rest is liberation. We're no good to ourselves, and we're no good to each other if we are not healthy. And sometimes we go, but we always have to listen to ourselves and know when we need to stop and stop and take a break, or not turn on your video these days, or just go outside, to take a call or skip a call. I mean, quite frankly, the word, it will be there. It is there waiting for us. And draw strength from each other, like the conversation we're having about Gipple, just the text message from Cody, just making sure that we're all, we know we're all feeling the pressure, and that it can be something really small to reach out and just, let each other know we're here for each other.
And 30 seconds on that self-care and how do we manage this emotional labor from anyone else on the panel?
If I can offer and just say more of a testimony versus an answer, but I think for me, it's kind of drawing hard lines and understanding where the work of Lindsay as a Black woman like stops and the work of white people begins, and that I'm not responsible to help necessarily white folks understand this race stuff that's going on right now and like experiences, and understanding that, and also not allowing, not accepting this idea of not being racist. So it's either you are anti-racist or you're enjoying a system of white supremacy. I think for me, it's critical that we have those hard lines, because this is it. We're not going back after this. And so for me, it's been very easy to move forward when it's just very distinctive. So that's my testimony.
Thank you for that, Lindsay. That was very, very insightful, very poignant. Let's switch gears just a little bit. Question from our audience. How do we engage and care about the various immigrant communities who don't have the language skills or the energy in their reality, in their really tenuous lives to become part of this conversation, but they suffer from all the ills we're speaking about?
So, as an immigrant, I can take that part. Yeah, obviously, again, it goes back to the to just work together, just work together and united in our voices. And then when we are united, there are people that listen to us. There are many organizations that are sympathetic of these communities. I work a lot with these communities from all kind of perspectives, from education to voting rights. Go there and knock doors and telling them, educate them how they can register for voting, where they can find the prisons where they can vote, etc. Because they don't know. They believe that they go there and they say no and they don't come back, and they are afraid to speak up because they have many issues. They could be undocumented, or they can have some kind of serious other problems, and they are always with the head down. And this is just sad. But the thing I want to say is that there are people that wants to help. There are many people that wants to help. We just need to work together. We need to be ensure that we protect each other. So we had to be solidary with each other. As an immigrants, we had to be completely 100% solidary with the Black Lives Matter, because that is affecting us all. It's not just the Black people, it's affecting any kind of people of color. Look at what is happening with the Asian community. And the only way that we can speak up and we can make our presence is to be solidary with each other and be with them. Be with them in the moment of crisis. With the whole thing of George Floyd impact us all. I mean, I was as happy as everybody of you today with the result. It was a big relief. We had this conversation before opening to the public this meeting. The big relief that I felt, because I feel like my own. I'm not Black, but is my brother. I feel that George Floyd is my brother and represent my people. He represents my people. And then when I speak with the Latinos, I also tell them the same thing. We are brothers and we are sisters. We are here in this boat together. So we better support each other. We better help each other. And then, for instance, for immigration, I hope that we are solidary with all those people that are coming to this country with the horrible situations caused by climate change. If you don't know, that problem that happened in Central America is caused by climate change. All the droughts that happened in the early 2000s is manifest in poverty, in hunger, and people have to eat. And the only solution that they see is going north. But we can work together, we can be solidary, and we can find solutions. I was reading today The Biden who has a tremendous, had the most diverse cabinet ever. And that's when you have the kind of cabinet, you can come up with great ideas. So they come up with this idea to those people coming from Central America, stop in Mexico, work in climate issues for Mexico. And then if they prove that they are good workers, that they are fine, they can get accepted in the United States. So there's a benefit for Mexico, benefit for the planet, and benefit for immigration in the United States. That happens when you have a diverse people that give you different opinions of how we can address this issue. As an immigrant, I'm very happy with that solution because it's fixing climate, it's fixing the problem that we have at the border. It's just a brilliant idea that only comes back again when we have diversity, when we have listened to each other.
Thank you so much for that, Jairo. That's what you call equity right there. As we get ready to draw this up, we have one more question, and then I'm going to pitch it to each of you for your final thoughts and a call to action for our viewers tonight. We've got people tuning in. We've got people right here in the Zoom with us, and then we have a whole other audience out there on a couple of platforms on Facebook. So one of the other questions that just came in, and this is going to be for my director, Chandra Farley, and or Nathaniel Smith. Our prior class for JEA was limited to just Atlanta. Is it now open to other areas? Is there an Alabama class, please?
Well, I'm hoping that was a misread. Our class has been open to the region since the beginning. That was critical to us as an organization that focuses on the American South, but also understanding that we need partners in other areas, and we need people who are informed and understand why the fight for equity and the journey to equity is important. So we've had Tennessee, Alabama, we even have a Texas, East Texas, San Antonio participant this year. It's virtual, so we did open that up. But it was critical to us from the beginning, even in our fundraising, that we had the dollars for that first class, of which Alicia Scott is a graduate, if you like to know the path of a Just Energy Academy participant, to make sure that we could support folks coming in from other states. So would love Nathaniel to just chime in on the importance of that regional aspect to our work.
Yeah, I mean, we are a Southern organization. We of course are situated in Atlanta, but our movement goes beyond the state of Georgia and our partners. So, we're always excited when other, folks from other states get involved in our work, because you become a part of our ecosystem, and hopefully as you learn from us about the opportunities, we also learn from you. So all of our classes have been that way. So it is not just focused on Atlanta. It is a region-wide opportunity.
Thank you so much for that. So I want to open it up now. We are in the last 7 minutes of this event. I do want to open it up to each of you. First, let's open it up for our in-studio audience. If anyone has a question, just come on camera now, come on mic. And if you have a question for any of our panelists, let's hear it now. And then we're going to move on into closing calls to action, not closing remarks. We want you to give the audience something to do, something to grab on and move forward in. We'll start off with Nathaniel, then we'll go to Lindsay, we'll finish up with Jairo, and Chandra, you can close us out and give us that final call to action.
So I wanted to actually use my time to actually answer the question about if I'm cold now. Whether Drawdown, because I don't want to avoid that question. That is a difficult question, but it is a question that deserves an answer. Drawdown Georgia is an effort that is focused on creating the conditions for the type of policy changes that are needed in order for us to have a long-term change in the way that we're not only able to draw down our carbon, but also hopefully create a more inclusive and just state. With that being said, there are organizations that are connected to Drawdown Georgia, that are working every day to influence the day-to-day challenges that communities are facing. And we are connected to Drawdown Georgia every day to ensure that the challenges that everyday people are experiencing are front and center as relates to the strategies and work that is required. You know, I was very, very clear when I agreed to be one of the chairs is that this had to be about real work, because the greatest enemy of equity is time. And unfortunately, we have the challenges of white supremacy, of greed, of all of these other challenges that we're facing stacked against us. But let me ask you a question. What if the abolitionists said that we're not going to fight for freedom unless we're free today? What if the folks that were involved in the Montgomery bus boycott said, if we don't get integration today, then we're not going to organize for over a year, which then realized the modern civil rights movement? What if the folks who are fighting against the brutality that Black folks and brown folks are experiencing as it relates to the police said, if we don't get reform today, then we're going to stop this work, right? Or what if, you know, some of our white allies said the burden of being an anti-racist, of pushing away from our privilege is too heavy a burden to bear? You know, where would we be? And so I think it's very important for us to have a dual consciousness as it relates to the work, never forgetting the urgency of now. And there are many, many things that organizations like PSC are doing right now. Like, for example, the work that we're doing with the city of Atlanta around advancing this clean energy plan that will hopefully create an opportunity for whoever, you know, lifted up that problem, that you will have a weatherized home and have access to resources. But at the same time, we also have to have a long game attached to this work, because if we're just playing checkers and our opponent is playing chess, then we'll win small battles, but not win the war. So I think they're not different or competing, they're actually complementary. And we always have to maintain that tension between the urgency of now and, you know, the future that we need to realize. So I hope I was sensitive and honored your question with a thoughtful answer, but I did not want to lose sight on that, because you are the people that we need in this movement, because it is the urgency that you bring to the movement that will always work to ensure that people like Chandra and Alicia and Hyro and Lindsay and I, who sit around and talk about this stuff all the time, will get up off of our behinds and do what we need to do to ensure that that real change is happening in community through your leadership and your engagement. So I just wanted to share that, because I thought it was important for me to answer that question.
Thank you, Nathaniel. That was very powerful. Thank you. Thank you. Lindsay, call to action. How do we get involved? How do we mobilize the masses?
Yes, thank you. So it's time to escalate. And that's what we're doing in Arm in Arm. We're escalating. And if you're interested in getting activated and get your family and your friends, folks in your community activated around things you see that are dead wrong where you live, join us. Blythe has been so kind to put the Arm in Arm information in the chat. If when you get an opportunity, if you could please do that. Join us in Arm in Arm. You will be seeing us this year and in 2022 for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Okay, 2 minutes. Hyro, how do they get involved?
So obviously, please join the Climate Reality Project. We do a lot of things together, but also just be conscious and never let anybody tell you that you are not making the difference. Small things make the difference, and then it's just a satisfaction that you're doing the right thing. So when somebody tell you, "Oh, you're not doing the difference," that is not true. We are always making a difference. Just be conscious, you know, as Nathaniel mentioned, our Mother Earth. Senator Warnock, I love to say Senator Warnock. Senator Warnock said that the Earth is like our mama, and in the hood, we respect our mama. So we should respect our earth, and we should be conscious about our earth. And every single day, things that we do, you know, what we eat, how we drive, and we are respectful for that, is for our mother. So let's do it. It's worth it. It's totally worth it.
Okay, and Miss Farley, please give us that call to action and wrap us up.
Yeah, this was so wonderful. And find your justice home. You know, that when we talked about, you know, getting involved, somebody asked the question earlier, you can come to the Just Energy Circle meetings. They are open. We have members, but welcome folks to come every third Friday from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. to learn with us and build relationships with each other. We have a big year coming up here in Georgia for 2022. I hope people are getting their rest. We need people to, if you are served by an electric membership cooperative, I want you to either look at your bill or look at your mail and find out when your board election is. And I want you to think about running for the board. So that's one. Second, I'd love for you to join our listening tour around municipal utilities. You can go to @WeThePlug on Facebook, Instagram. They're about halfway through, but this is another place to get engaged. If you're served by a municipal utility, you elected someone who is making decisions about how much you pay for it, where it comes from, and perhaps when they can shut you off. I think Alicia got a big surprise, you know, about that when they're making these decisions. So just be committed to engaging in the process of democracy. We can call it energy democracy, but at the end of the day, we have to show up. And that is it. And if I can just go back to something Nathaniel said, who's always good for a t-shirt, Drawdown Carbon is about lifting up justice. There is no shortcut around it. Every conversation we have, you know, through the leadership of Nathaniel and PSE and our partners, we are all talking about the importance of lifting up justice, advancing equity, which is about working and building power with the people.
Thank you so much. Gipple, we want to invite you back on camera to just close out for your wonderful forum for 30 Days of Climate Action. Thank you again for having us here at PSC. Speak to your audience. We love our partnership as well. So we are honored and humbled that you gave us this space to share with the masses.
Well, I want to say thank you to all of you. This has been incredible. So I am so grateful for all of you for being willing to be here tonight and engage in this conversation.